The Nexus station bar hummed with the sounds of a dozen alien languages. Blue smoke hung in the air, and the clinking of strange glasses mixed with rough laughter. This was where mercenaries came to find work, brag about kills, and drink away bad memories. Commander Vexella sat alone in the corner. Her scaled skin showed battle scars, and the cybernetic implant where her left eye used to be glowed faintly red. She sipped her drink slowly, watching the room with the caution of someone who had survived too many battles. At the main table, a group of young mercenaries boasted loudly about past jobs. The loudest was a rookie Krell, his exoskeleton still shiny and unmarked by combat. "Just signed my first major contract," the Krell announced, mandibles clicking with excitement. Some corporate outfit once helped clearing out Earth colonists on Vega 9. Easy money. Humans are soft creatures with primitive weapons. The bar went silent. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. A glass shattered somewhere. The bartender, a Pellerin with 6 arms, 3 of them ending in mechanical replacements, stopped wiping the counter. His compound eyes focused on the rookie. "Friend," the bartender said quietly, "you might want to reconsider that contract." The Krell laughed. "Why?" "The pay is excellent, and the humans don't even have a real military presence. Just farmers and miners with outdated guns." Vexella turned her head slowly. The movement caught everyone's attention. When a veteran like her moved, others paid attention. "Cancel your contract, youngblood," she said. Her voice was rough, like stones grinding together. "Unless you want to end up like me, or worse." She tapped her cybernetic eye. The Krell stood up, still confident in his unscratched armor. "Why should I fear humans? They're not even members of the Galactic Concord. They have no battle fleets, no plasma cannons." Vexella's laugh made several mercenaries flinch. She stood up, towering over the rookie. Everyone could see her limping as she walked to his table. Her right leg was clearly artificial below the knee. "Let me tell you about New Montana Colony," she said. "My first command against humans. I brought 200 elite fighters. Only 8 of us made it off that planet." She pulled up a chair, and I was one of the lucky ones. Other mercenaries moved closer. An old Durrani with half his tentacles missing nodded. "I was on Epsilon Ridge when the humans counterattacked." A pair of insectoid Vrol clicked nervously. "We lost our whole hive squad on Terra Nova." The rookie looked around in confusion as hardened killers, beings feared across multiple star systems, showed unmistakable signs of fear. "Sit down, youngblood," Vexilla said, gesturing to the chair across from her. "I'm going to tell you why mercenaries go silent at the mention of Earthborn units, and maybe, if you're smart, you'll live long enough to tell others." The Krell slowly sat down as the bartender brought a fresh round of drinks. Vexella leaned forward. "It began 50 years ago, just after first contact. 20 years ago," Vexella began, "I was young and hungry for glory. The corporate authority hired my unit to secure New Montana, a small human colony rich in rare minerals." Her claw tapped against her glass as she remembered. "Intelligence said it would be simple. The humans had no military, just farmers, miners, and engineers with basic weapons. We brought heavy assault ships, battle armor, and enough firepower to level cities." The rookie Krell leaned forward, his mandibles twitching with interest. "The landing was perfect," Vexilla continued. "We secured the main settlement in hours. Humans surrendered without much fight. They stood with empty hands as we marched in." She paused to take a drink, her cybernetic eye glowing brighter with the memory. "My superiors celebrated an easy victory, set up command centers in their government buildings, started mining operations immediately. The humans worked for us, showed us their maps, guided us to mineral deposits." The bartender placed another drink before her without being asked. "But something felt wrong," Vexilla said quietly. "The humans were too calm. They didn't resist much. They followed orders perfectly, too perfectly." She looked at the rookie with her one good eye. "Have you ever hunted, youngblood? When prey gives up too easily, smart predators become suspicious. The Krell shifted uncomfortably. What did you notice? Small things at first. Equipment missing from inventory lists. Humans with rough hands. Not just workers' calluses, but markings that come from handling weapons. And the tunnels. Vexilla's claws scratched at the table. The colony had tunnels everywhere. They said it was for mining and shelter from storms. She laughed bitterly. We believed them. I told my officers to map the tunnels. But they were extensive, far more than needed for mining. And they kept finding new ones. An older mercenary at the next table nodded grimly. Humans are diggers. Always have been. Since their planet's ancient wars. I raised concerns with corporate command. Vexilla continued. Requested more scanners, more security. They called me paranoid. Said I was wasting resources. The humans were working. Minerals were flowing. Profits were good. She stared into her drink. We controlled their communications, their vehicles, their weapons facilities. We had air superiority, orbital support. By every military calculation, we had won. The bar had grown completely silent now. Even beings who hadn't been listening earlier had turned to hear her story. For 3 weeks, everything seemed peaceful. The humans tended their farms, worked our mines, kept their heads down. Vexilla's voice dropped lower. But they were watching us, learning our patterns, studying our weaknesses. Every human, from children to elders, was memorizing our technology, our biology, our vulnerabilities. Her claw tightened around her glass until it cracked. They weren't surrendering. They were preparing. Preparing for what? The rookie asked, his confidence now visibly shaken. Vexilla looked up, her eyes seeming to stare at something distant and terrible. For showing us exactly why you should never corner humans on their own territory. The first sign of trouble came during the night cycle of our 23rd day. Vexilla continued, her voice growing tense. A patrol didn't return from the eastern sector. Not unusual. Storms sometimes delayed communications, but when they missed 2 check-ins, I sent a search team. The rookie Krell's antennae twitched nervously as he listened. The search team found the patrol's vehicle abandoned. No signs of a fight. No blood. No bodies. Just empty armor suits arranged in a circle, facing outward. Vexilla's claw tapped rhythmically on the table. It was unsettling. Deserters? Asked the Krell. Several mercenaries around them chuckled darkly. That's what corporate command said, Vexilla replied. But Saurian warriors don't desert, and they don't leave their armor behind. Something was very wrong. She took another drink before continuing. 2 days later, a mining outpost reported their water recycler had failed. By the time techs arrived, 3 guards were dead. Analysis showed the water contained chemicals that targeted Saurian biology specifically. Chemicals from local plants the humans had told us were harmless. The bar remained eerily quiet. Even the usual background noise of the spaceport seemed distant. Corporate command still didn't worry. Called it unfortunate accidents. Then soldiers began having equipment failures. Breathing filters clogged with strange pollen. Power cells draining too quickly. Small things. Deadly things. Vexilla's cybernetic eye dimmed slightly as if recalling painful memories. Then came the night Outpost 7 went dark. 40 of my best troops stationed there. The outpost monitored a major mining operation. She paused. I led the response team myself. Her voice became flat, emotionless. The outpost was intact. No signs of weapons fire. No forced entry. But every soldier inside was dead. Not from advanced weapons or explosives. From primitive things. Traps made from mining equipment. Toxic smoke from burning local plants. Drinking water laced with minerals that crystallized in Saurian lungs. She lifted her prosthetic leg slightly. I stepped on a pressure plate, triggered a mining charge buried in the floor, lost my leg and 5 soldiers in that single moment. The rookie's confidence had completely vanished now. His mandibles clicked nervously. The command console was still working, Vexilla said. Someone had carved a message into it with a mining tool. It said, "We weren't soldiers. You made us become them." The old Durrani mercenary at the next table spoke up. "That's their way. Humans don't start as warriors, but push them, and they transform." Vexala nodded. "We sent the bodies back to our main base and secured the outpost, doubled the guards, added sensors, used every security protocol in the manual." She looked directly at the rookie. By morning, the replacement team was dead too. No alarms triggered, no alerts sent, just more traps, more poison, more ingenuity. "Did you catch any of them, the humans?" asked the Krell. "We thought we did," Vexala replied quietly. "We were wrong. What we caught was only their first message, a warning of what was coming next." After losing 2 outposts, Corporate Command finally took the threat seriously, Vexala said, leaning forward. "They sent intelligence agents to gather information about the Resistance. That's when we first heard about him, Daniel Hayes." The name caused a visible reaction among the older mercenaries in the bar. A grizzled Vrol clicked its mandibles nervously, and the bartender paused while pouring a drink. "Who was he?" asked the rookie Krell. "On paper, nobody special. A terraforming engineer who helped establish the colony's farms and water systems." Vexilla's eye narrowed. But to the colonists, he was something else entirely. A leader, a strategist, a ghost who could appear anywhere and vanish just as quickly. She pulled up a holographic display from her wrist computer. It showed a human male with weathered skin, dark hair streaked with gray, and eyes that seemed to look right through the viewer. Corporate Command put a massive bounty on his head. Enough credits to buy a small moon. Vexilla laughed bitterly. Didn't matter. No one could find him. We had facial recognition scanners at every checkpoint, drones patrolling day and night, informants in every settlement. Nothing. The rookie stared at the hologram. "He doesn't look dangerous. That's what makes humans so deadly, Youngblood. They don't look like what they are." Vexilla shut off the display. "We captured some colonists, tried to get information about Hayes. Most wouldn't talk. Those who did spoke about him like he was some kind of myth." She took another drink. "One old human farmer told me Hayes was always good at making things grow. Then he smiled at me, a smile I still see in my nightmares, and said, now he's growing an army." The bartender nodded as he moved closer to listen. "Humans have this saying, necessity is the mother of invention." "Exactly," continued Vexala. "We realized the humans weren't fighting like any military we'd faced before. They didn't want to win battles. They wanted to make staying on their planet impossible." She paused, remembering. Corporate Command sent reinforcements, a special unit with experimental tracking technology, designed to find Hayes. The dropship landed at noon. By morning, half of them were dead in their sleep. "Ambushed?" asked the Krell. "Poisoned. An airborne toxin that targeted their respiratory systems. Our medical team identified it as a modified version of a plant the humans used for terraforming. They had engineered it to affect only our species' lung structure, not human breathing systems." The rookie's mandibles trembled. "They weaponized plants. They weaponized everything," Vexella said grimly. "The planet itself became their weapon. Hayes understood something we didn't. The humans had spent years reshaping that world to suit their needs. They knew every plant, every mineral, every weather pattern. And now they were using that knowledge against us." She leaned back, her cybernetic eye glowing dully. "We had superior technology, superior numbers, superior firepower. But none of that mattered, because Hayes and his people weren't fighting a war of technology. They were fighting a war of knowledge, intimate knowledge of the environment we were trying to control." "What happened next?" the rookie asked, now fully captivated. "We decided to find out where they were hiding," Vexilla replied. "That was our biggest mistake. We finally caught a break," Vexilla continued, her voice lower now. "Captured a human resistance member trying to sabotage our water purifiers. Unlike the others, This one broke under questioning. Told us about an underground facility where they were making weapons. The rookie Krell leaned in closer, fully invested in the story now. I assembled my best remaining troops. We followed the humans' directions to an old mining site. The entrance was hidden under a broken harvester. Vexilla's claw scratched nervously at her skirt scales. I ordered a stealth approach instead of an airstrike. Wanted prisoners, intelligence, proof for corporate command that the situation was worse than they thought. The bartender placed fresh drinks on the table without being asked. Everyone in the bar was listening now. The tunnel went deep, deeper than any mining operation needed to go. The air grew colder, damper. Vexilla's cybernetic eye flickered as if replaying memories. We reached a massive cavern. And what we found there. She paused, taking a long drink. It wasn't a military base. It was a conversion factory. Ordinary farming equipment transformed into deadly weapons. Mining explosives rewired for remote detonation. Terraforming chemicals modified to target specific alien biologies. Vexilla's organic eye narrowed. The worst part. Who was working there? Children operating makeshift 3D printers, creating detonator parts. Elderly engineers mixing chemicals. Farmers adjusting the sights on rifles made from irrigation pipes. Civilians? The rookie asked, mandibles clicking in confusion. That's what we thought they were, Vexilla replied. But there were no civilians anymore. Every human had become part of their war machine. Every colonist had a role in the resistance. She pulled up another hologram from her wrist device. It showed a vast underground chamber filled with workstations, makeshift labs, and humans of all ages working with focused determination. We moved silently, setting up a capture perimeter. But when we made our move, Vexilla shut off the hologram. Empty. Completely empty. They had detected us somehow and evacuated. Left everything behind. They abandoned their weapons, asked the Krell. No, Youngblood. They abandoned equipment they wanted us to find. Vexilla's voice turned grim. What they left behind was far more terrifying than weapons. She tapped her claws nervously against the table. In the center of the facility was a data center. Inside we found detailed files on every mercenary commander in our force. Not just military information, personal information, family members' names, home world addresses, daily routines. The rookie's antennae drooped in shock. They had files on my sister on Saurus Prime, my clutch mate's hatchlings, even the medical facility where my injured soldiers were recovering off-planet. Vexilla's voice grew tight with remembered fear. They weren't just fighting us on New Montana. They were telling us they could reach anywhere. How? Whispered the Krell. How could simple colonists gather that kind of intelligence? That's when we realized our fundamental mistake, Vexilla said. We thought we were fighting farmers who had picked up weapons, but we were actually fighting something much worse. What? Asked the rookie. Vexilla leaned forward. Problem solvers who had decided we were the problem. After 6 months of fighting this invisible enemy, corporate authority lost patience, Vexilla said, her voice hardening. Our casualty numbers kept rising. Mining operations were constantly disrupted. Profit margins dropped to nothing. The rookie Krell sat perfectly still, his earlier bravado completely gone. So they sent the Black Scale Commandos. Vexilla's words caused several mercenaries in the bar to inhale sharply. Even among our kind, they were feared. Special forces trained for complete planetary pacification. I've heard of them, the Krell whispered. They're forbidden on most civilized worlds. For good reason, Vexilla nodded. Their commander, General Ixis, arrived with orders to implement Protocol Scorched Earth. They brought weapons banned by the Galactic Concord, bioweapons designed to kill all surface life while preserving mineral deposits below. She paused to take a drink with a shaking claw. They planned to poison the atmosphere, kill every living thing, human, animal, plant, then extract resources from the cooling crust. I objected, not because I cared about the humans anymore, but because Her voice faltered. Because soldiers should fight soldiers. The bartender finished for her, his 6 arms moving slowly. Not poison children. Vexilla nodded gratefully. General Ixes gave me 12 hours to evacuate my remaining troops before they began the protocol. That night, I gathered my officers to prepare for departure. Her organic eye looked distant. We never made it off-world. The humans attacked? Asked the rookie. No, something far more unsettling happened. Vexilla's cybernetic eye glowed brighter. When the sun rose the next morning, General Ixis and his entire commando unit had vanished. 40 elite soldiers, gone without a trace. She leaned forward, but their weapons remained, every single one laid out in a perfect circle in the colony's main square. Each weapon disassembled, key components missing, rendered harmless. The bar had grown so quiet that the sounds of the spaceport outside seemed unnaturally loud. In the center of the circle stood a simple hologram projector. Vexilla continued. When our scouts approached, it activated, showing General Ixis and his commandos. They were alive but restrained, seated calmly with blank expressions. Behind each soldier were images of their families on their home worlds. Their mates, their children, their homes. That's impossible, the Krell whispered. How could humans reach Saurian worlds? They couldn't, Vexilla replied. But they wanted us to believe they could. And after everything we'd seen, we believed them. She drained her glass. No message, no demands, no threats. Just the silent implication. We can reach anyone, anywhere. It was the most effective psychological warfare I've ever witnessed. What did Corporate Command do? The rookie asked. They panicked, Vexilla said simply. For the first time, the humans had shifted the battlefield from just New Montana to our own worlds, at least in our minds. The fear of what they might do next was worse than anything they'd actually done. And General Ixis? The Krell asked. Vexilla's gaze hardened. I don't know. Corporate Command ordered a full communications blackout after that. But I made a decision that night that changed everything. What decision? The rookie leaned forward. To contact the Resistance, Vexilla said quietly. To find Daniel Hayes. Contacting the Resistance was the hardest decision of my life, Vexilla said, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. I had seen what they did to my soldiers, but I had also seen what Corporate Command was willing to do to an entire planet. The rookie Krell's eyes were fixed on her, mandibles completely still. I left my second-in-command in charge and went alone to the edge of the settlement, used an old emergency radio channel, and broadcast a simple message. Commander Vexilla requests meeting with Daniel Hayes. Will exchange information for safe passage off-world. She paused, remembering. I waited all night. As dawn broke, a single human appeared at the edge of the forest. Not Hayes, but an old woman. She simply said, "Follow," and walked back into the trees. Vexilla's cybernetic eye dimmed slightly. I followed her for hours through dense forest, far from any paths. She never spoke again. Eventually, we reached a small clearing with a hidden elevator built into the ground. We descended deep underground. The bartender slid another drink toward her, which she accepted with a grateful nod. The elevator opened into a tunnel network like nothing I'd seen before. Not rough mining shafts, but smooth, carefully designed passages. They ran for kilometers in every direction, some large enough for vehicles, others barely wide enough for a human child. A secret base? Asked the rookie. More than that, Vexilla replied. An entire shadow colony beneath the surface. Hydroponic gardens, medical facilities, living quarters. They had built a complete civilization underground while we controlled the surface. She took a long drink before continuing. The old woman led me to a small room. And there, finally, I met Daniel Hayes. Several mercenaries in the bar leaned closer. I expected a warrior, a hardened killer. Instead, I found a tired-looking human with dirt under his fingernails. Vexilla's organic eye narrowed. He was studying plans on a datapad while tending to a tray of seedlings. He looked up when I entered and said, "Commander Vexala, I've been expecting you to find us eventually." The rookie's antennae twitched nervously. Was he, like the stories? Not what I expected, Vexala admitted. He offered me water and a seat, as if we were old friends. Then he said something I still remember exactly. We were terraformers, botanists, and miners. We knew how to reshape planets. Reshaping ourselves into soldiers was simpler. She tapped her claws on the table. As we talked, Hayes showed me through parts of their underground network. It wasn't just one base. It was hundreds, all connected, spanning the entire colony. While we'd been controlling the surface, they had built a complete parallel world beneath our feet. How many humans were down there? The Krell asked. Thousands, Vexila replied. Every colonist who had supposedly surrendered was actually part of their resistance. Farming equipment became weapons factories. Mining tools became explosives. Medical supplies became biological agents. She leaned forward. But the most frightening thing was their organization. Perfect operational security. Everyone had a role. No wasted effort. No unnecessary risks. Hayes ran their resistance like he had once run their terraforming operation, with perfect efficiency. What information did you trade? The rookie asked quietly. Vexala's expression darkened. I told Hayes about Protocol Scorched Earth. And what he told me in return changed everything. Hayes thanked me for the warning about Protocol Scorched Earth. Vexala continued, her voice steady. Then he showed me something on his datapad. A complete map of New Montana. Not just the surface, but everything. Underground water systems, mineral deposits, atmospheric patterns. The rookie Krell leaned forward, completely captivated by her story. Before we built our first house, Hayes told me, we spent 2 years mapping every centimeter of this planet. We know it better than we know our own bodies. It's not just our home. It's our weapon. Vexala's cybernetic eye flickered as she remembered. That's when I understood why we could never win. We were fighting on their terrain, literally. They knew exactly how to use the environment against us. She took a slow drink before continuing. Hayes offered me a deal. I would return to my command with information about their tunnels, carefully selected information that wouldn't truly compromise them. In exchange, they would help evacuate my remaining loyal troops before their final offensive. You betrayed corporate command, the rookie asked, his mandibles clicking in surprise. I chose survival, Vexala corrected sharply. I'd watched Hayes people transform farming equipment into weapons that could kill Saurian elite forces. I didn't want to see what their final offensive looked like. The bartender nodded sagely. Smart choice. I returned to base and told my officers I'd found a resistance hideout, Vexila said. Claimed we could crush them with a focused attack. Those loyal to me understood the hidden message and prepared for evacuation. Others, she paused. Others followed corporate orders and prepared for a major assault. She stared into her drink. That night, I sent the coordinates Hayes had given me to corporate command. They deployed 3 battle groups to those locations, expecting to find resistance strongholds. A trap, asked the Krell. No. Empty tunnels. Abandoned outposts. Vexila's claw tapped against her glass. While corporate forces were focused on those locations, Hayes people launched their real attacks. Precisely targeted strikes against our supply lines, communication centers, and command posts. She leaned back in her chair. They didn't attack with brute force. They didn't need to. They simply disconnected us, cut off our ability to coordinate, isolated each unit. Then they used the planet itself against us, modified plants that corroded our equipment, local insects attracted to our power signatures, water sources that became toxic when processed through our filters. How many survived? The rookie whispered. From my original force of 200. 8 made it to our evacuation ships, Vexila said flatly. Other commanders who followed my example managed to save some of their troops, those who stayed loyal to corporate command. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. When the dust settled, more than half of the invasion force was gone. Not all dead. Many simply disappeared. Corporate authorities' remaining commanders started fighting among themselves, blaming each other for the failure. Vexella's organic eye narrowed. That's when Hayes made his final move. He didn't need to destroy us completely. He just needed to make staying on New Montana more costly than leaving. What happened next? The rookie asked. Corporate authority did something they had never done before, Vexilla replied. They admitted defeat. Corporate authority never publicly admitted failure, Vexilla said, her voice growing stronger as the story neared its conclusion. They announced that New Montana was strategically insignificant and not cost-effective for resource extraction, a fancy way of saying they quit. The rookie Krell's antennae drooped slightly as he absorbed this information. But mercenaries talk. Survivors talk. Vexilla gestured around the bar, where several veterans nodded in agreement. Word spread through guilds and training academies across the galaxy. The story of how simple human colonists defeated one of the largest corporate military forces ever assembled. She pulled up her holographic display again, showing official Galactic Concord documents. Within a year, humans were reclassified in threat assessments. Previously, they had been categorized as a minor species with limited military capability, useful primarily for creative problem-solving. Her claw tapped the display. Their new classification: major territorial threat. Extreme caution advised for any engagement on human-controlled worlds. The rookie stared at the document in disbelief. I left the corporate military after New Montana, Vexilla continued. Started working as an independent security consultant. Made a name for myself by specializing in one thing, refusing any contract against human settlements. Is that why you have those? The Krell asked, pointing to her cybernetic eye and prosthetic leg. Vexilla laughed darkly. These? No, these are just the visible reminders. The real damage was inside. She tapped her chest. Modified terraforming chemicals damaged my respiratory system. I need this implant to breathe properly. She rolled up her sleeve, revealing scales that had strange discolored patterns. And these are from exposure to engineered plants near one of their trap sites. Sometimes they still burn. The bartender moved closer, his 6 arms working methodically as he cleaned glasses. I lost these arms the same way, he said, raising his 3 mechanical limbs. Epsilon Ridge Colony. Different planet, same human tactics. When clients ask why I won't take human contracts, Vexilla continued, I show them these scars. I tell them about New Montana, about how Hayes and his colonists didn't have the strongest weapons, but they had something more dangerous. They knew exactly how to use what they had. She looked directly at the rookie. The humans don't win because they're stronger or have better technology. They win because they transform. A farmer becomes a chemist making toxins. A miner becomes a demolition expert. A teacher becomes a tactical analyst. But surely not all human colonies are like that, the Krell said, still trying to justify his contract. They're not, Vexilla agreed, until you attack them. Then they all become New Montana. Around the bar, other mercenaries nodded solemnly. After New Montana, other corporations tried different approaches, Vexilla said. Stealth invasions, propaganda campaigns, economic pressure. Nothing worked. Each failure just added to the legend. She finished her drink and set the glass down firmly. That's why veterans go silent when rookies mention Earthborn units. We're not afraid of their weapons. We're afraid of what they become when they have no choice but to fight. The rookie looked down at his contract tablet, his earlier confidence completely gone. The story isn't finished yet, Vexilla said quietly. Do you want to hear how it ends? The final chapter of this story isn't about me, Vexilla said, her voice growing softer. It's about what happened after New Montana. The rookie Krell sat perfectly still, his contract tablet forgotten on the table. 3 years after the corporate authority retreated, representatives from the Galactic Concord visited Earth. Vexilla's organic eye showed a hint of respect. Not to threaten or demand, but to negotiate. They had finally realized something important. Humans were dangerous, yes, but they were also valuable. She gestured to the bartender, who nodded and dimmed the lights slightly. The holoprojector in the center of the bar activated, displaying official-looking documents. The result was this: the Earthborn Protocol. Vexilla pointed to the floating text, a diplomatic agreement that changed interstellar law. It formally recognized human independence and established clear rules for interaction with human colonies. The rookie leaned forward to read the glowing text. "The most important part is Section 7, Vexilla continued. It explicitly prohibits corporations and mercenary groups from invading human settlements. Not because of humanitarian concerns, the Concord doesn't care about that, but because the cost analysis proved it was never profitable." She laughed quietly. In other words, humans aren't protected because they're loved. They're protected because they're too expensive to fight. The bartender moved closer. "The protocol includes a warning to all mercenary guilds. Show them, Vexilla." She tapped the document, enlarging a section with red text. "Any action against human settlements carries an estimated casualty rate of 70% or higher, with near-zero probability of mission success. The human capacity for asymmetric warfare makes conventional military approaches ineffective." "So that's why," the rookie began. "That's why veterans go silent." Vexilla finished for him. "That's why we warn rookies like you. Not out of fear for humans, but out of respect for what they become when cornered." Suddenly, a figure at the far end of the bar stood up. He had been sitting so quietly that few had noticed him. An older human male with weathered skin and gray hair. He picked up his drink and walked toward their table. The entire bar went silent. Several mercenaries reached for weapons instinctively, then stopped themselves. The human stopped before Vexilla's table and raised his glass slightly. "Commander," he said with a nod, "you tell the story well." Vexilla's eye widened in recognition. "Hayes," she whispered. Daniel Hayes, older but unmistakable, gave a small smile that didn't reach his eyes. He looked at the rookie Krell, studying the contract tablet. "Word of advice, young one," Hayes said quietly. "There's a saying we have: never force a farmer to become a soldier. You won't like what grows from those seeds." He set something small on the table, a colony keycard from New Montana, then turned and walked out of the bar without another word. The rookie stared at the keycard, then at his contract. With trembling claws, he tapped the screen, bringing up the cancellation option. "Wise choice," Vexilla said as the Krell confirmed the cancellation. "Remember this night when someone offers you an easy job against humans again." She looked toward the door where Hayes had disappeared. "Because if there's one thing I learned on New Montana, it's this: humans don't want to be soldiers. But when they have no choice, they redefine what warfare means."